So we're going to talk about Elio Gracie's lesson 2 today, and the first technical application in Elio Gracie's lesson 2 is the basic hip throw. It looks like this. All right. Now, learning this hip throw is not so much about doing the hip throw as it is about learning how to learn the hip throw. Elio Gracie's lessons are so basic that much of what's going on is about the pedagogical experience, which is just a fancy way for saying that they teach you how to learn, right? All the basic principles of Jiu-jitsu are present in Elio's 40 lessons, and the ones closer to the beginning of that list of 40 are more formidable, more formative, more basic, more foundational. So the hip throw is a very, very basic foundational movement in Jiu-jitsu, but the hip throw is not about the hip throw, as at least this particular version of the hip throw is not as much about the hip throw itself. We're not expecting that after this video you can go out and toss everybody you run into at the grocery store, right? But it's about what it means to use base, what it means to use your hips, what it means to understand angles, what it means to understand the relationship between two bodies, and what it means to understand leverage as opposed to force, right? The movement begins in base, and what's actually really important for practicing this particular version of the hip throw is that you have a cooperative partner who's not tense, but not a ragdoll, right? Nate needs to stand up straight and just be relaxed and go along with whatever I do. There's always this tendency when we face each other to do this right away, right? I'm going to do the hip throw, and then Nate grabs me and I grab him, and people are already tense. That's not how this is happening. Both people are just going to start with their hands at their sides. And Nate's going to let me reach out and take his elbow and tuck it under my arm. And once I do that, this is stupid, right? So I just put it down. Why would you do this? Right? Put it down. And you see, by putting it down, it's hard for Nate to bring his arm back. Right? If he does, look what happens. When Nate really tries to get his arm back, what does he do? Brings me to him. That's perfect, because that's what a person whose arm you're holding is going to do. If I hold Nate's arm, what? Give me my arm, right? And that's exactly what I want. Why? Because I need to end up here. So when Nate pulls me in, as long as I take a little step, guess where I'm going to land? Here, on the side of him. I don't have to take a giant movement. I want to rely on Nate's natural reaction to get me close to him. Right? Every time we have the chance in Jiu-jitsu, we want to be really as far away as possible. Can Nate punch me from here? No. Can Nate kick me from here? No. Maybe a throwing knife, throwing star, gun, fancy weapon, yes, okay, that's always something to worry about. But in terms of just hand-to-hand connection, I'm best if I'm really far away. I'm in the worst trouble if I'm right here or right in kicking range, right? That's terrible for me. So if I can't be really, really far away, I want to be really, really close. And holding the arm like this and allowing for the natural reaction of trying to pull away gets me the chance to be close. A couple things about how we're close in the hip throw. Be so close that you can put your ear on his chest, right? As you step around the corner, listen to his heart. You want to be in the T position. I don't want Nate to pull me in and then I'm here. This is something else. This is sort of the beginning of a clinch, and even in the clinch we would need to move to the side. I want to be teed with Nate. So Nate's in this plane and I'm in this plane. So I'll reach out and I'll hold the elbow and lock it down, and then I'll take a step around the corner and I'm just going to cup the waist once I put my ear on the chest. Look. That's it. Right, if we spin here, let's do it from this angle. Right, I'll reach out, I'll hold the elbow. We'll step. That's it. That's it. Notice that when I step, my relationship to Nate is close enough that I can cup the waist. This way, if he starts to move away, I follow him, right? But I'm not quite like this yet. I'm not touching the hips with my own hips like I would be in the clinch, because I need room to step around and land in front of Nate's body, right? So when we're standing like this and I hold the elbow and lock it down, and I take a step to the side and listen to his heart. Is that a song? Yeah, right? And cup his hip. This is what it looks like. 1, this is my initial position. You see the hand monitors the hip, so that wherever Nate moves, I can follow him. Great. My feet are slightly more than shoulder width apart. Soft knees, soft hips. I'm in base. Right? This way, as Nate thrashes around, I can stick with him in base. And then I'm going to make sure that I have an avenue right here. This is the place I need to walk. And I start with the back foot, and I try to step inside Nate's feet. You imagine that his feet form a box. Bottom, side, side, and top. Maybe about 1.5 feet out in front of him. You must step inside that box. If you don't step inside the box, you'll have a very hard time executing the hip throw, because your leverage, the fulcrum, which is the place at which the lever connects, right, with the object it's attempting to move, or the balance point of the lever, that the fulcrum will be too far away, right? So I want to create a fulcrum that's close enough. So look, I'm going to step inside the box. 1, and then 2. And you see the fulcrum is my hips pushing against Nate's hips. But if my hips are above his hips, guess what I'm not touching? His hips. I'm touching his stomach, his chest, his whatever. So the taller people in the room, you make sure that when you step inside the box, your knees are bent, and you may even want to take... So the taller people squat down and you push the hips back, you see? And this is how to start. This is how to start the motion. The motion of the hip throw begins with you being able to take your hips under your partner's hips and then push them back into the partner's hips. This bends the partner in half, and you see the weight of the upper body goes over you, and the weight of the lower body dangles below you. So anytime you want to do anything successful in jiu-jitsu, break the person's body in half. Where does the body break in half naturally? Right here at the waist. Right here at the waist. So I'm going to take all of the weight of his upper body and just lay it across my back, and the weight of the lower body will just dangle below me, right? Hold the elbow. Step to the side, cup, and listen. Now open up an avenue so that you can step inside, the box. 1, and then 2. Here is the part where we start to make mistakes, because we get excited and we think, I'm inside the box, now I have to throw him. You're going to turn around a little bit. Let me grab on really tightly here, and then throw him with my arms. And that's the worst thing you can do, not only for your shoulder, but for the hip throw itself. The back of the hip throw is not about how much you hold the gi or the belt. What if they're not wearing a gi or a belt? What if they're wearing Speedos, right? You're going to take the hand and cup the back just like you cupped the wrist, and you're just going to press his back into yours. The hand, it glues his hips to your hips. That's all it does. It glues his hips to your hips. It shouldn't be closed. It shouldn't be strong. It certainly shouldn't be grabbing and trying to turn a big steering wheel over the top of your body. It simply connects him to you. That's important because you're not lifting him with your arms. You're lifting him by dropping the hips and pushing them back under his hips, which causes him to bend and sort of fall over top. That's all, right? You're lifting him because you're getting him to bend, and when his weight collapses, the upper body lands on your back, and because your knees are a little bent, when you straighten them, it takes his feet off the ground. So you should be able to step inside after holding the elbow, cup and listen. Right, look, you should be able, almost with no hands, you see, to take his feet off the ground. This is what we want to do. Now you see that if I don't use hands, though, what does he do? He slips back to the ground. So this rear hand just pins him to me. It just holds him in place. Very practical. Hold the elbow, lock it, step, listen, and cup. That's it, right? Open up an avenue and step inside the box, right? 1, 2, and then put your hips under his. Now look here, I'm holding him onto my back. I'm holding him onto my back. To finish the hip throw, you see how the knees are slightly bent? To finish the hip throw, I'm going to look away from him and then straighten my knees. That's it. I can keep the sleeve, right? The second big mistake that we make, besides trying to hold tightly and wrench him over us, the second big mistake that we make is that we step outside the box. If you step outside the box, so I'm going to step to the side, listen and cup the waist. Now if I get excited and I start by stepping inside the box and I'm doing well, but then I feel like, oh, he's too heavy, right? And why do I think he's too heavy? Because I'm trying to throw him with my arms. I'm not using my hips. So it's because I start incorrectly here that I think I need to adjust. And what do? I step outside the box. And look what happens. I'll continue to wrench him. I'm outside the box, and you know what he does? He sort of just rolls off my hip a little bit. If I'm lucky, he falls. More likely, because the person is not passive, although in this drill, the partner is very cooperative, but in a live scenario, the partner is not passive, the opponent, rather, in a live scenario, would be passive, they're going to be looking to regain their base. So if I make the mistake of holding the elbow, which is not a mistake, rather, if I make the mistake of once I hold the elbow correctly, step to the side, cup and listen, if I do all this right, and then I make the mistake of stepping inside the box and using strength, and then I step outside the box, when I try to roll Nate, watch what happens. Yeah, you see? Very easy for him to just step over the leg. So I have to remain inside the box. And I can't throw with my arms. It should be that you're able to step inside after holding the elbow. You get to the waist and cup it, listen to the chest. It should be that once I step inside the box, just by pushing my hips back, look, right? Nate is able to be lifted. Right? Look, no hands at all. Now if I want to finish the hip throw, I would take the elbow back, pin him. My knees are a little bit bent, so I look away and I straighten the knees. That's it, all right? So when you start this, here's what you'll do. You'll hold the elbow and put it under your armpit. You'll walk to the side, and then you'll step inside the box and push your hips back and just balance the person on your back and put them down and step back out. Right, you'll hold the elbow, you'll lock it, you'll step to the side, cup the waist, listen to the chest, step inside the box, lower the hips, and pick them up. That's it. Do that 5 times to get used to what it means to carry someone on your back. Once you get used to balancing them on your back, check your balance. Right? Once they're here, check your balance. Let go. See if you can keep them there. Then you know you're in a good spot for the hip throw. Once you're able to do that, then you can maintain the connection. Right there. I'm able to do that. Maintain the connection. Straighten the knees and look away. Notice when they land. A couple thoughts about the landing. If I don't have them pinned to the ground, they can move. So whatever leg is closest, which will be the leg by the hips, I put that down a little bit. Right? You could, if you want, drop the knee fully into the belly, but this is enough. You'll have the sleeve if they have a sleeve. If not, it's nice that you regain the elbow and put the arm back under your armpit. Let's spin this way a little bit. Put the arm back under your armpit and lock it down, right? The hand that's under the arm is going to grab the opposite wrist, and then your wrist will cup their bicep. Then you're simply going to straighten your body, right, so that you extend their elbow over itself. The throw is powerful enough that if this were to happen on a hard surface, the person would be shocked and unable to move for a moment. So you have time. You have time to drop the knee into the belly, right? You have time to drop the knee in the belly. Nate, when he does this to me, will find an elbow that he likes, pick it up and put it under his armpit. Then he'll walk around the side until he can cup the waist and listen to the heart. He's in base, but he's not so close that he can't step away, or step through rather, right? Everything is the same as it was in the beginning. The elbow is still tight, so I can't pull it out. And the hand that cups the waist is a tracker, so that if I move, Nate follows me. But there's enough room for him to step through in the front and put both feet inside the box. And look, when he does this, he puts his hips below mine. Most critical aspect, the hips go below mine. Not to lift me, he just pushes the hips back. And look, he checks. Can he take his hands away? Yep. No need, so he makes sure that he's connected. This hand back here pins my hips to his, and his knees are slightly bent, you see? So now when he wants to throw me, he just bounces the knees straight. and I fall. Notice how the elbow has remained gripped, the hand has remained under the armpit, and so now Nate can reach down with that hand and grab his opposite wrist, and then cap my bicep. Keeping that tight, he just slowly sits up. Perfect, right? He can do this without the knee, although it's less likely. You need to get a little low. So since you're bending anyway, and since you don't want the person to try to scurry away, you might as well drop the knee onto the body, the rib cage, the hip, and hold them still, right? Then he just slowly straightens for the arm lock, all right? Let's move on and try this together now.